My name is Cassia Reed, 30 years old. Before I left for Chicago, I said one thing clearly. Don't touch my car. Not even as a joke. Not to move it. Not for errands. Not for emergencies. Nothing. I had repeated that boundary so many times, it felt like I was talking to a wall. But this time, I meant it with a finality that left no room for negotiation. I was flying out to a 4-day work conference, something I had been preparing for months. Networking events, keynote dinners, a schedule so tight I barely had room to breathe. My career depended on these trips, and I wasn't about to gamble it all over another one of my family's reckless whims. The night before my flight, I called my mom just to check in and to remind her and dad that I would be out of town and no one was to come by my place or mess with anything, especially not my car. Because the last time I trusted them with a vehicle of mine, I ended up paying $4,300 in repairs for an accident I wasn't even in. Emily had taken my keys without permission, scrolling through her phone while driving, and rear-ended someone. My parents brushed it off as a learning experience for her. I called it theft and stupidity. After that, I swore my car was off limits permanently. I drive a 2021 black Toyota Highlander, fully paid off, low mileage, spotless interior. I've babied that car since the day I bought it. It's not just a vehicle, it's my freedom. It's how I travel for work, how I get around Austin, how I stay independent. I don't loan it out, not even to friends. So before leaving, I made sure it was locked up in my driveway. The garage code was changed months ago, after Emily had made a suspicious comment about knowing her way in. I also left the keys with my friend Jason down the street, just in case something weird happened, like a storm or break-in. Not for anyone to use, certainly not for my family. Fast forward to Monday morning. I was getting ready for my final conference session, standing in the hotel lobby with overpriced coffee in my hand when my phone started buzzing. An unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again, then again. Finally, I answered. "This is Officer Barrett with Travis County. Is this Cassia Reed?" My stomach dropped. The sterile lights of the lobby suddenly felt too bright, the hum of conversations around me like static pressing in. Apparently, my car had been towed from a residential street in Galveston, hours away from Austin, for obstructing a private driveway. It had been sitting there all weekend like someone thought they owned the place. Neighbors had called it in when they couldn't get out for work Monday morning. The officer said the people in the vehicle didn't match the registration, and one of them claimed to be my mother. She told them, "My daughter said we could use it. It's a family car." I nearly dropped the phone. My car, the one locked in my driveway. They had hit my house. They'd gone into my garage using a code they weren't supposed to have anymore. They'd grabbed a key that Emily had secretly copied months ago and driven my car to the beach with her kids, her boyfriend, and my chest tightened. Even my golden retriever, who I had left with them to dog sit for the weekend. No permission, no call, nothing. They even packed coolers and beach chairs. It wasn't an errand. It wasn't an emergency. It was a full-blown family vacation in my car. The bill, $1,900 to get it out of the impound lot. The officer asked me point blank, did I give them permission? If not, he'd need to process it as unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, possibly even theft. I didn't hesitate. I said, "No, I never gave anyone permission. If they're still in the car, flag it immediately." 10 minutes later, the officer called back. The vehicle had been located. My parents were driving back toward Austin when they got pulled over on I-10. Everyone was removed from the car. It was taken into police custody. They were stranded with luggage, sand-filled shoes, and 2 screaming kids on the side of the highway. I stared at my phone, watching the missed calls roll in like a flood. Mom, Dad, Emily. Each voicemail swung between guilt-tripping nonsense and full-blown manipulation. "You owe us for everything we've done for you. We raised you. It's technically our car, too. You're our daughter." But I didn't answer. I sat back down in the hotel lounge, sipping bitter coffee that had gone cold, staring out the wide glass windows at the city skyline. My colleagues laughed at a nearby table, their voices muffled like they were behind glass. Inside me, everything shifted. This wasn't just about a car. This was about the years of entitlement, the quiet thefts dressed up as family favors, the way every boundary I tried to set was treated like a joke. In that moment, I knew something with a clarity I couldn't ignore anymore. They had no idea what was coming next. I wasn't flying home early. I wasn't picking up their calls. I wasn't rushing to clean up their mess. Not this time. They thought I would do what I always did. Yell a little, cool down, then give in. But this time I didn't even flinch. Later that night, lying in the hotel bed, I replayed the image the officer had painted for me. My parents, Emily, her kids, her boyfriend, all standing in the Texas heat on the shoulder of I-10 with their junk scattered around them like a yard sale. Folding chairs, half-empty water bottles, melted crayons, dog hair clinging to the fabric. A scene of chaos they had created for themselves. And me? For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the villain they painted me to be. I felt calm, detached, almost free. But in the pit of my stomach, there was a shadow of unease, because if they were bold enough to steal my car, break into my home, and lie to the police, then this was just the beginning. When my flight finally touched down in Austin 2 days later, I felt the weight of everything waiting for me. The humid air clung to my skin as I walked through the terminal, my carry-on heavier than it should have been, not because of what it held, but because of what I was bringing back with me, the inevitability of a confrontation I had been avoiding for years. The first stop was the impound lot. The clerk behind the counter gave me a look I'll never forget, like I was some soap opera villain reclaiming stolen property. I signed the papers, slid my card across the counter, and watched $79,900 vanish in seconds. Money I'd worked for, money I'd earned, money gone because my family thought borrowing my car was a birthright. When the clerk handed me the keys, I walked out to the yard in silence. There it was, my Highlander. But it didn't look like mine anymore. There was a jagged scratch running across the back passenger door. One of the cup holders was sticky with juice. The screen of the infotainment system had a crack, spider webbing across it. Sand glittered on the floor mats. Dog hair stuck to the seats. And the smell, sunscreen, fried food, and something sour, hit me so hard I had to swallow down the urge to gag. I sat in the driver's seat, gripped the wheel, and for the first time since buying the car, I didn't feel proud. I felt invaded. That night, I drove straight to my parents' house. No call ahead, no warning. I wanted to look them in the eye, to see how far they'd twist this. When I knocked, my mom opened the door with a wide, fake smile. "Well, we were wondering when you'd come around," she said, as if nothing had happened. My dad chuckled from the living room. "Bet you're over it by now." Emily sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to notice me. My dog lay beside her, tail thumping once against the cushion like he wasn't sure whether to be happy or guilty. I stepped inside, every muscle in my body taut. "You broke into my house," I said evenly. "You stole my car. You lied to the police, and now you're standing here like I'm the villain." Emily scoffed without looking up. "You're blowing it out of proportion. It's just a car. You need to grow up." Her boyfriend avoided my gaze, sinking deeper into the couch like he regretted every choice that led him here. My mom's smile dropped. Her eyes hardened. "You owe us for existing, for everything we've done for you. We're your family." There it was, the line they always leaned on, sharpened like a blade. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I simply said, "No more. No more favors. No more money. No more help with bills, school supplies, vet visits, nothing. You made it clear how little you respect me, and I'm not rewarding that anymore." The room erupted. My mom's voice climbed into a shriek. "You're turning your back on us." My dad's face flushed red. "Family means loyalty, Cassia. You don't abandon the people who raised you." Emily rolled her eyes, muttering, "Drama queen," under her breath. But none of it stuck. Not anymore. I walked out, shutting the door on their noise. For the first time in years, I felt like I had drawn a line in ink instead of sand. That night, I turned off my phone and slept better than I had in months. Of course, the silence didn't last. By morning, voicemails from 3 aunts and a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years cluttered my inbox. Even one of Emily's friends' mothers chimed in, leaving a message about how family is messy, but worth it. My mother's campaign had begun. She was spinning her version of the story, painting me as the cold, ungrateful daughter who abandoned her parents over a car. But I wasn't about to let her control the narrative this time. I drafted a group message to the relatives who had reached out. My hands shook only once before settling into steady focus. I laid out every fact, no sugarcoating. The towing invoice, the photo of the dent, the detail that they broke into my house using a copied key. I told them this wasn't the first time. It was just the first time I refused to cover it up. Then I hit send. The tide began to shift. One uncle called me that evening, voice heavy with apology. He said he didn't realize how bad it was. Two cousins texted, sharing their own stories of my mom's manipulations. Even my mom's older sister sent a brief, stunning message. Honestly, good for you. For a moment, I almost let myself breathe. Almost. Because I knew my parents. Silence didn't mean surrender. It meant planning. 2 days later, they were waiting in my driveway when I got home from work. My mom waved, like she was greeting a neighbor. My dad leaned against the hood of their car, casual, as if we hadn't just detonated our relationship. Let's just move on, my dad said. It was a misunderstanding. I gripped my keys, jaw tight. If you set foot on my property again, I'll get a restraining order. The words landed like stones in water, ripples spreading, but no immediate splash. My mom's expression didn't break. She just studied me, eyes calculating, lips twitching, as if she were already rewriting the next version of events. I went inside without another word, but the image of her face stayed with me long into the night. It wasn't the look of someone who had lost. It was the look of someone plotting their next move. The email came late at night, just as I was shutting down my laptop. Emily's name lit up the screen, and for a moment I considered deleting it unread. But curiosity won. The subject line was sharp enough to cut. You've humiliated this family. I clicked it open. The message spilled out in angry paragraphs. She accused me of embarrassing them by involving the police, said I had turned money into my god, that I was cold and ungrateful, that I was twisting the story to make them look like villains. And then, near the end, one line snagged my breath. You think you're above us now, just because you're not struggling like we are? There it was, the slip, the quiet truth beneath all the screaming. This wasn't just about a car, it wasn't about loyalty or respect, it was about entitlement. They saw what I had, what I built for myself, and believed it was theirs too. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened 3 tabs in my browser and began cutting cords. First, the shared emergency account I had quietly set up for my parents last year, drained more than once by unexpected expenses. Gone. Next, the recurring Amazon order I'd been paying for, sending snacks to Emily's kids every month. Canceled. Then the vet, where I was listed as the backup contact for my parents' dog. I had agreed after their last financial mess. I called, explained, and asked to be removed. Done. One by one, the invisible threads tying me to their crises snapped. Finally, I sent a single group message. You lost access to my support the moment you broke into my house and stole my car. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a boundary. I put my phone face down and went to bed. But I should have known they wouldn't stop. A week later, a letter arrived in the mail. Handwritten, folded neatly in thirds. My father's handwriting. It started like an apology. Careful words about family healing, about how misunderstandings shouldn't tear us apart. But by the 3rd paragraph, the mask slipped. We decided to use what was available to cover the towing bill and other expenses. Don't be shocked if you notice changes in your accounts. I froze. What accounts? Hands trembling, I logged in online. 3 personal checking accounts. Fine. Savings. Intact. Side income. Untouched. Relief flickered, then vanished when I remembered something. An old joint account. One I'd opened when I was 19, working 2 jobs. My parents had convinced me back then that it would help to have them manage my money. I hadn't thought about it in years. Never officially closed it. Last I checked, maybe a few $100s sat there. I signed in, heart pounding. The balance was almost gone. They hadn't taken it all at once. Instead, a series of small withdrawals under $200 each, enough to slip beneath radar. $75 here and here, $120 there. Over weeks, almost $600 drained. I scrolled through the log, nausea rising. Each transaction was a fingerprint, a reminder that while I was drawing boundaries, they were still picking locks I'd forgotten I'd left behind. I called the bank. The representative confirmed what I already suspected. One transfer had been made from an IP address tied to my parents' home network. The rep's voice was apologetic but firm. Because this was technically still a joint account, you may not be able to recover the funds. I hung up, the sound of my own pulse roaring in my ears. They hadn't just stolen my car, they were quietly stealing my money too. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the printout of transactions. My dog lay at my feet, head resting on his paws, watching me with worried eyes. I felt a hot, unfamiliar mix of shame and rage. Shame that I had left the door open. Rage that they had walked through it without hesitation. For a brief moment, I considered pressing charges. I pictured detectives knocking on their door, pictured my mom's face twisting into wounded innocence, my dad's bluster, Emily's silence. And then I thought of Emily's kids, innocent, tangled in all of this, without choice. What would it do to them to see their grandparents arrested, their mother exposed in handcuffs? I set the papers aside. Not tonight, not like this. Instead, I made a different choice. Silence. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. Because I realized something chilling as I sat there in the quiet. My family didn't just cross boundaries. They studied them, tested them, waited for cracks. And when they found one, they slipped through, convinced it was their right. So I went quiet, not to protect them, but to protect myself. If they wanted war, I wasn't going to fight on their terms. I was going to fight on mine. The silence broke in the most absurd way, at my job. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and the lobby receptionist called upstairs in a panic. "Cassia, someone's here. Says it's urgent. Says she's your emergency contact." My stomach tightened. There was only one person reckless enough to pull something like that. I walked out, heels clicking against polished floors, and there she was. Emily, leaning casually against the front desk, Starbucks cup in hand, wearing that smug smile I knew too well. "Relax," she said, lifting her coffee like a toast. "I just wanted to talk, like sisters." I didn't move. "This is my workplace. You can't just show up here." She shrugged. "You've been ignoring us. I thought maybe face-to-face would help. Besides," her eyes flicked up, suddenly serious. "You know Mom's been sick, right?" I blinked. "What?" "Her heart," Emily said quickly, as if the words had been rehearsed. "Stress has been making it worse. She's been in danger, Cassia. You're killing her by freezing her out." The receptionist glanced at me, uncertain. My pulse thudded in my ears. Without another word, I turned and walked back into the elevator. Emily's voice followed, sharp and desperate. "Don't you care? She could die." But something about the performance scratched at me. Too polished, too familiar. That night, I called my mother's doctor. Despite everything, I was still listed on her medical release forms. The nurse on the line sounded puzzled. "There have been no recent appointments, no changes in medication, nothing concerning." My breath caught. "Has anyone been calling, asking questions under my name?" The nurse hesitated, then, "Actually, yes, twice last week. Same questions, same urgency, but it didn't feel right." I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the ceiling in the dark. They weren't just stealing money anymore. They were stealing me, pretending to be me, to pry open doors, to manipulate with a fake illness they thought I'd be too soft to question. The next morning, I called my lawyer. By afternoon, the wheels were in motion. I revoked power of attorney I had once, foolishly, granted in case of emergencies, stripped my name from medical records, severed financial links, changed the garage code again, just to be safe. Every thread they might still pull, I cut clean. For the first time in years, I felt something close to relief. But my family didn't retreat. They adapted. It started with a group text from my cousin Lauren, a forwarded invite to a family barbecue, grill out, yard games, store-bought pies. Everyone was on the list except me. Attached was a photo, one I remembered vividly, a 4th of July years ago. I had set the timer on the camera, sat in front of the grill with a plate of burgers and my dog in my lap. In the version attached to the invite, I was gone, cropped out. Not blurred, not faded, just erased. It wasn't just family they invited either. Jason, my neighbor, the one who had refused to hand over my spare key, got a personal message from my dad. "You've always been like family. Come by." Jason didn't go. Instead, he texted me screenshots with a simple message. "This is weird. They're trying to pretend nothing happened." But the worst part wasn't the invite, it was the video. That night, another neighbor messaged me, a 30-second clip filmed quietly at the barbecue. In it, my parents stood side by side, arms around Jason, introducing him to a circle of relatives. "This is Jason," my mom said brightly. "He's been helping us out lately." The camera caught her smile, too wide, too deliberate. My chest constricted as I watched. They weren't just cutting me out. They were replacing me. A few days later, my mom slipped. An email meant for someone else landed in my inbox instead. "She doesn't want to be part of the family anymore. That's her choice. We'll be just fine without her. Maybe one day she'll come crawling back. Until then, we move on." I stared at the words until they blurred. Fine without me. Moving on. It was almost funny. For years, they had claimed I owed them everything. Now, stripped of access to my life, they were recasting me as disposable. But even as fury burned in my chest, something colder settled beneath it. If they could crop me out of photos, invite my neighbor in my place, rewrite history in family emails, what else were they capable of? The answer came quickly, like a whisper in the back of my mind. Anything. The voicemail came late one evening, long after I'd stopped expecting anything good from my family. It was from my aunt, the quiet one, the neutral one who had spent her life on the sidelines. Her voice trembled through the speaker. "You don't need to call me back. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't know how bad it had gotten. I didn't know they were lying about so much. They tried to replace you, but everyone could see it wasn't the same. It was never going to be the same. You were the one holding that family together, and they didn't realize it until you were gone." I listened to it 3 times, not because I needed her validation, but because it reminded me of something I had almost forgotten. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't the villain they painted me to be. But closure didn't come with that message. If anything, it felt like the last line in a book I had already stopped reading. A week later, I found an envelope wedged in my front door. No stamp, no return address, just my name in block letters. Inside, a single sheet of notebook paper, my mom's handwriting. "We're giving you one last chance to make things right before it's too late. No more games. This has gone on long enough." That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement of the police report, the money they siphoned, the lies, the impersonation. Just a warning disguised as an olive branch. I folded it back up, dropped it in the trash, and made my decision. I changed my phone number, reset every password, updated every emergency contact, closed every account that had even the faintest tie to them. Subscriptions, canceled. Old joint accounts, closed. The garage code, changed again. Even the couch they'd given me when I moved into my first apartment, the one they always dangled as proof of their generosity, I sold. Watching strangers carry it out the door felt like shedding skin. For weeks, the silence that followed was unsettling. I half expected escalation, a dramatic voicemail claiming mom was in the hospital, or a message saying the kids miss me. But nothing came. Instead, the silence began to feel like peace. Then Jason caught me outside one evening. He had run into my dad at the store, said my father looked right at him, then walked away without a word. But Jason also warned me. "They're telling the neighbors they cut you off, that you've gotten into legal trouble and they're protecting themselves." I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. They couldn't reach me anymore, so they rewrote the story for anyone who'd listen. Heroes in their own tale, even in my absence. I didn't bother correcting it. Let them talk. They always needed an audience. I didn't. The final sting came from an unexpected source, a bank call. Not my bank, theirs. Apparently, my dad had tried to log into an old account where I was still listed as a backup contact. His failed attempts triggered a security alert, and the bank called me to confirm. I told them to remove my name permanently. Then I surprised even myself by asking, "Is there a way to flag me so nothing ever gets linked to them again?" The rep hesitated. "Honestly, I've never had anyone ask that, but I'll see what we can do." I hung up, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. For the first time, I wasn't thinking like a daughter. I was thinking like a survivor of a long con. Because that's what it was. Not just the car, or the money, or the impersonations. It was years of emotional fraud, dressed up as family love. Every guilt trip, every "you owe us," every crisis I was expected to solve. They trained me to believe walking away was abandonment, but it was freedom. So no, I didn't burn the bridge. I watched them pour the gasoline and strike the match. The day they broke into my home. The day they stole my car. The day they faked an illness to manipulate me. The day they tried to crop me out of my own family photo. They lit the fire. And now I keep that bridge in the rearview mirror. Some mornings I still glance back, wondering if they'll ever try again. Part of me hopes they don't. The other part knows if they do, it'll be the same script. Only this time, I won't be playing a role in their drama. I'm not the villain, I'm not the savior, I'm just done. And that's enough.